It's time now for Media Watch. We're joined by Rebecca Barry here. Rebecca, how are you?
Very well, Mark. You?
Brilliant. Nice to see you. We're starting with the story about the Libyan opposition commander. Now, this is an anti-Gaddafi former rebel, I suppose, about to sue the CIA. Explain.
Well, it's something you've been covering in the news bulletins, but let's focus in on this one particular character in the story. This is part of the fallout, of course, of that finding of the treasure trove of secret documents in Tripoli in various offices belonging to former Gaddafi loyalists, and they reveal an embarrassingly tightly knit web of collaboration between the secret services, the CIA and the MI6, of course, in Britain, and the Libyan regime. And they even suggest that Britain might have been involved with the extraordinary rendition of terror suspects, including this man, Abdul Hakim Belhaj, the leader of the Libyan rebels, as he's called here in this article from the Middle East Monitor.
He's the guy who heads up the Tripoli brigade, isn't he, based in the Libyan capital?
That's right, a specialist in security. And he's demanding an apology from both governments, saying, in fact, it was British spies who tortured him first. So who exactly is him? Well, he's the founder of a now dissolved group, the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, and has always been at the forefront of the opposition to the Gaddafi regime. He was captured on the 6th of March 2004, rendered first to Thailand, then back to Libya, and held in a kind of Libyan version of the Abu Ghraib prison. He said he wasn't allowed to bath for 3 years, and he didn't see the light for an entire year either. But he came out of jail earlier on this year during Gaddafi amnesty. Now, this article here talks about that. In fact, he has a little bit of a colourful past himself. He's tried to play down his Islamic links, saying on Friday that the US lumped him in with terrorists unfairly, but he does have a history of inflammatory statements, vowing previously to fight against all deviant groups, calling for democracy.
Doesn't justify being tortured, does it, though?
Certainly does not justify being tortured, and there are questions now being raised about what was known on the British side, who knew about this, who sanctioned perhaps these extraordinary renditions. And this is a pretty hard-hitting article in the right-leaning Daily Mail newspaper. It's by Michael Burley. He's the author of Blood and Rage, A Cultural History of Terrorism. And he likens the former Labour government, the previous government, and the Gaddafi regime to pigs grubbing around in the same trough. You know, they've got their snouts in the trough. He says their relations were sordid, and he points the finger at this man, yes, Mr. Tony Blair, saying that we all knew that he had a Faustian pact with Gaddafi, that he'd sold his soul to Gaddafi, but the extent of the collaboration is what is staggering here. And the irony of calling Belhaj a rebel hero when it was MI6's information that led to his capture and torture does not go unremarked on either.
OK, let's go and talk about the Queen, if we may.
The Queen?
Or a Queen.
A Queen. She's a Queen of sorts.
Or rather, Queen.
Wendy Deng should be called a Queen of sorts. This is a bit more information about old Tony Blair. I'm afraid it's a bit of a Tony Blair packed segment this evening. But Wendy Deng, who is the wife of Rupert Murdoch, has, in an interview with Vogue magazine, let slip that Tony Blair is none other than a godparent to her child, to her daughter Grace, one of her daughters with Rupert. And this is the first time that the information has been made public. It's in this October edition of the magazine. And the article describes Blair as one of her very close friends. And we can see here that he was present at a ceremony. You don't see him in this photo, but he was there when the daughter was baptised in the River Jordan last year. And this star-studded event was hosted by Queen Rania of Jordan. And the article talks about how Nicole Kidman and Hugh Jackman were there, and they are both godparents to these kids, but doesn't mention anything about Tony Blair. And of course, he's been strongly criticised for a lack of commentary, really, on the phone hacking scandal that's rocked the UK media. He denies ringing former Prime Minister Gordon Brown to tell him to get his ally Tom Watson off the backs of the Murdoch empire. But it's taken 18 months for this information to slip out, so we can probably imagine it's not something that Tony Blair wanted known.
Indeed. And everybody, of course, has their own agenda. Rebecca, thank you very much indeed. Media Watch there with Rebecca Baring. Stay with us. We have loads more to come, including all the sport and two names in the French rugby squad that may surprise a number of people.